All right, guys, what's going on? Welcome in. So, man, I can't sleep, right? We got the NFL draft tomorrow. It's 2 a.m. And I'm sitting here thinking, like, what should I do, right? Like, how do I kill time? Truthfully, I have this massive pile of clean clothes that I should fold and put away, but I'm not doing that. I'm going to do a mock draft instead. So, we're going to see how this goes. Let's not waste a ton of time. Let's jump right into it. Chicago Bears first up. We're going Caleb Williams. Not really a ton of explanation needed here. This is probably going to be the pick. Next up, spot number 2, Washington Commanders. I'm going Jaden Daniels. I think Daniels makes a ton of sense for Washington and what the Commanders want to do offensively. Daniels just provides so many different things, right? The quick release, the arm strength, the deep ball placement, the leadership, the mobility, the speed, the Heisman Trophy. Jaden Daniels to me makes so much sense for the Commanders. Although I still really, really like Drake May, I just feel like Washington is in a great position. My only concern with Washington, O-line. Will they fix the O-line? It was a problem last year. There's still some holes there, but they do have the high second round pick and a high third round pick and what have you. So Washington, Jaden Daniels. Moving on. Am I even recording? Yes. All right. Number 3, New England Patriots. I'm going Drake May. I think at the end of the day, you don't want to be the team that really needs a quarterback, the team that does not have a franchise quarterback, and you pass on one to try to get too cute, to try to fill holes, try to trade down and add assets, and then it turns out you pass on the next Josh Allen or the next Justin Herbert. Luckily for New England, they have Jacoby Brissett there. If they did not have Brissett there and they were just had Bailey Zappi on the roster, I think I would maybe lean more so trade down, but I think because Brissett is there, because Brissett has familiarity with new offensive coordinator AVP, Alex Van Pelt coming in, and he's worked with some great quarterbacks. He's coming in from Cleveland. I think that transition is going to be really, really nice. Brissett is going to be pretty much an extension of the coaching staff on the field and then on the practice field, in the QB room, in the meeting rooms, off days. Brissett is going to be that mentor for Drake May. Again, another just master of this system to help further cement, further cement the offensive ideas and philosophy into Drake May. And one thing that we do know about Jacoby Brissett, he is an elite teammate. He is such a good dude to be around. And of course, who's going to be catching passes for Brissett in this Patriots offense? Who's going to be, blocking at left tackle? Totally fair questions, right? I could still see New England trading back if they get a huge call or a huge offer from Minnesota or something. But they do have that high 2, they have the high 3, they still have over, get this, $50 million in cap space, and there's still some solid free agents out there, so I think New England, they're not going to overthink it here. I think they're just going to sit at 3 and pick Drake May and stash him a year behind Jacoby Brissett. Moving on, we got Arizona. I'm going Marvin Harrison. I'm just not buying the rumors of the Cardinals trading out. To me, the Cardinals really need help. They really need help at wide receiver, first off. Number 2, you have to get Kyler Murray a weapon, somebody other. Granted, I do like Wilson, right, at wide receiver. I do like McBride at tight end. But, man, Marvin Harrison is just a tier above these guys. The second Marvin Harrison walks into the Arizona Cardinals facility, he's going to be the best pass catcher on the football team. That is huge. I mean, there was a debate that Marvin Harrison could be the first overall pick back when Justin Fields was playing well, right? Go get Justin Fields a weapon. If not number 1, number 2. You look at Marvin Harrison in 2022 and 2023, the dude is just so smooth, right? He has size. He's a red zone threat. He makes plays down the field. He has speed. He can beat corners off the line. He does this great toe tap on the sidelines, which I feel like is not really talked about a lot. Of course, great hands. I think Marvin Harrison is truly the full package. Might not be as explosive as as a Malik Neighbors or something, but geez, I mean Marvin Harrison has been talked about as the top wide receiver prospect in forever, if not the top guy. He's 1B behind Jamar Chase. It checks so many different boxes for the Cardinals. You have another first round pick. There's no need to trade back. Just take Harrison. If I'm a Cardinals fan, I want Harrison, and if it's not Harrison, just give me Neighbors at 4. I don't want to mess around with the trade back. Next up, at spot number 5. Here's where I think the trade's gonna happen, right? Again, just kind of doing this mock draft here late at night, first kind of reaction towards everything. I think the Chargers are gonna move back. I think they want to focus on a right tackle, and I think I guess you can maybe make the argument that Joe Alt, you could draft him and plug him in at right tackle. That's what the Lions did with Penei Sewell. Taylor Decker, left tackle. Penei Sewell, left tackle at Oregon. They draft him. He's at right tackle. But I think Minnesota did not acquire this random first-round pick from the Houston Texans at 23 to sit at 23 and call it a day, right? I think the Vikings will be coming up. There's been multiple reports that the Vikings have aggressively called up. They're aggressively trying to move up, whether that's to 3 with the Patriots, to 4 with the Cardinals. What's the next best thing? It's spot number 5 with the LA Chargers. So let's propose the trade. We got the Vikings next, moving up with the LA Chargers. Confirm. Let's see. So the Vikings would get 5, and I'm going to say 11, 23, a 2025 first for sure. And for good measure, I'm going to throw in pick 129, add in a mid-rounder, fourth rounder. Right, you don't know what the Raiders could be offering on the other line. You don't know what the Broncos could be offering on the other line. Granted, those two teams are not AFC East, AFC West rivals. But let's see if the Chargers accept this. Sweet, okay, cool. It's accepted. Minnesota Vikings. We are going JJ McCarthy. Not necessarily what I would do, but just trying to be realistic here. It does look like McCarthy will be a top 10 pick. And the Vikings are desperately trying to get a quarterback with Kirk Cousins in Atlanta. Of course, Sam Darnold being the bridge there. Okay, next up, New York Giants. Best pick that they can make, in my opinion, is Malik Neighbors. When I think about the New York Giants offense, gosh, I just can't buy the quarterback rumors, the quarterback hype. To me, that makes no sense. If I was a Giant fan, I do not want a quarterback in the first round, and I'm not trading up for one either, right? Obviously, I think when I look at the Giants offense, they really lack explosion. They really lack a lot of speed. They lack playmakers within the structure, right? Does anybody really strike fear in defensive coordinators on the New York Giants? If you're the Eagles DC, if you are the Dallas defensive coordinator, the Commanders, Dan Quinn, right? You're looking at the Giants offense. Is there anybody that you're really losing sleep over at the playmaker position, right? Wide receivers, running backs, tight ends? No, it's not. But Neighbors is. Neighbors immediately becomes the best wide receiver on the team. He becomes the best wide receiver that Daniel Jones has ever had. I think that's saying something. Again, this is a really anemic offense these past couple of years, and they go out and they lose Saquon Barkley to the rival Eagles, and Darren Waller is considering retiring. They need to get a pass catcher, in my opinion, and Malik Neighbors, who arguably is the best receiver in this class, according to some, is here for the taking at spot number 6. Moving on, Tennessee Titans. Man, there's a lot of smoke. J.C. Latham could be in the mix here at right tackle, and the Titans do need help at both left tackle and right tackle. They have one of, if not the worst offensive line in football, and really the idea is that Callahan, the new Titans offensive line coach, has such a good resume working with offensive linemen and getting guys to maximize their growth potential. And with Joe Alt being more so a high floor type of player, they could maybe opt for either a pass catcher here, but in regards to J.C. Latham, go for somebody who they feel like can be incredible, somebody who they really feel like they can get a lot better. But for me, again, I think that's just overthinking it. I would much rather take a left tackle with a high floor and a high ceiling than a right tackle who's valued maybe a little bit lower on my personal big board. So for me, I'm going Joe Alt here. Again, not really a tough decision in my book. Next up, Atlanta Falcons, spot number 8. I think there's a lot of players that the Falcons can go with here. I think Byron Murphy, one of my favorite players in this draft, makes a lot of sense. I think the Falcons could go corner. But I think at the end of the day, Dallas Turner, to me, I love Laiatu. He's my favorite edge rusher in the class. But admittedly, Dallas Turner, his production within the SEC for Alabama, you look at the athletic ability, you look at the strength, you look at the system fit, you look at the team need, It just checks so many boxes here. Let's just not overthink it. If you're the Falcons, go get what a lot of people assume is the best edge rusher in this class. I like that pick a lot. Okay, so here we go. Chicago Bears at spot number 9. This is interesting, right? Because the Bears can go in a bunch of different directions. And personally, I think the Bears will be trying to work the phones, trying to move down. A lot of people mock Rome Odunze to the Bears. A lot of people are saying that potentially Olu Fashanu could be in play at spot number 9. We take a look at how the Chicago Bears are currently constructed. This is a team that is making win now types of moves, right? Let's start on defense. Kevin Byard. Why is nobody talking about that acquisition? Kevin Byard to the Bears was a huge pickup at free safety, right? They locked up Jalen Johnson. You already have Tremaine Edmonds manning the middle. You have Montez Sweat, who is a trade deadline acquisition, who was awesome for the Bears in Eberflus's 4-3 defense. Absolutely fantastic, right? I mean, man, by the way, I'm actually a big Jaquan Brisker fan at the safety position as well. I really like this Bears defense, but I think they're lacking in 2 specific areas, and we're going to get to that in a second. But offensively, Darnell Wright, top 10 pick last year, manning down right tackle. They traded for Keenan Allen. They already have DJ Moore. They signed DeAndre Swift, 3-year contract. They signed Gerald Everett, coming off a great season with the Chargers. I thought he was going to be back with LA. The Bears picked him up. They re-upped Cole Kmet. To me, if you go with a wide receiver here, it just seems a bit like it's almost overkill in my opinion. There's only one football to go around. Like, do the Bears really envision Caleb Williams dropping back 40 times per game? You know, I think these receivers are good enough to you know, I think it's good enough. And I know maybe that's not the right mindset to have. Like, we're trying to be elite. We're not trying to just be good enough. But I think the defensive-minded head coach who runs, again, this 4-3 style of defense that doesn't really have a dominant pass rusher opposite of Montez Sweat could really open things up defensively, right? I think that would really cause problems within the NFC North. You know, again, if you're trying to make the argument for Rome Odunze with Chicago, I'm not concerned over Minnesota's secondary. I'm not concerned over Detroit's secondary. Even Green Bay, I know they can take a corner in this draft, but they're not. Caleb Williams, Keenan, Everett, DJ Moore, I think they have enough firepower there, but I am concerned about the fortress, which is the Detroit Lions offensive line. I am concerned about Jordan Love's mobility, his playmaking ability, his ability to work off of play action, step up into the pocket. You know, and of course, Minnesota, you got a brand new rookie quarterback coming in, tons of weapons all over the place. Hawkinson, Addison, Justin Jefferson, Aaron Jones now. We need to affect opposing offenses. You know, if you take a defensive end here, or maybe even a Byron Murphy, but I think because of how last year's class went, they did invest some high picks into the inside of the D-line. I don't know if they're ready to give up on those guys. Although, again, I think Byron Murphy makes a ton of sense. I think Jared Verse makes a lot of sense for Chicago as that 4-3 power rusher in shotgun, right? Running backs aren't just going to have to go immediately over to Montez Sweat to chip him. They're not going to, you know, automatically just wall off one side of the defensive line because that's where all the pressure's coming from. And that's, you know, God forbid Montez Sweat gets hurt in camp. Now you really have an issue at defensive end. But Verse and Sweat on the opposite side, that to me, consistently, that's a pretty damn good defensive pass rushing unit. So I know it might be an overdraft. I would also consider Laiatu Latu, but I think just the natural fit there as a 4-3 end makes a lot of sense. The size and strength that Verse brings, I think, is pretty underrated. He did wreck games for opposing offenses back with the Seminoles. So here we go. Spot number 10 with the New York Jets. We got my guy Olu Fashanu on the board. We got Brock Bowers on the board. We got Rome Odunze on the board. We got Tulesi Fuaga. We got Fatanu. We got Mims. We got Latham. We got Brian Thomas. All these guys make sense for New York. All of these guys make sense. I would consider a trade back because there's so many players who I like here. But I think, again, just trying to be realistic, if these three players are on the board, I have a feeling that the Jets would go Rome Odunze. I look at the wide receiver position as the biggest team need as of right now. As much as I talk about Tyron Smith going down with an injury, we're one Tyron Smith injury away from having, a problem at left tackle. We can literally make that same exact argument for Mike Williams, who isn't even 100% going to be ready for the start of training camp. We don't know if he is going to be ready, if he is going to be healthy, right? I think Odunze's plug and play immediately. He can hurt defenses in the slot. Again, if I'm Joe Douglas, I'm going Fashanu because I really value a franchise left tackle. And I think the Jets are in a great position where Tyron Smith can not only just teach Fashanu the game and kind of lead him in smoothly to the NFL, but Tyron Smith is 33. He's injury prone. He hasn't played a full season since 2015. Let's just say he plays the full year. He's healthy. He's great. He's on a 1-year deal. So are the Jets going to re-sign him and pay him a lot of money at 34? That seems a little dicey to me. I think I would just go with Fashanu, but Rome Odunze would not be a bad pick in the slightest. Brock Powers would not be a bad pick. We're not worse off with these guys. In many, many cases, pretty much all these cases, all these players here, we're getting an upgrade, and that is huge. We're getting a building block. That is huge. So for me, I would go Fashanu, but being realistic, and again, you listen to Joe Douglas in these press conferences talk about the offensive line. He talks about it like it's done. It's complete. They did their job. They signed their starters. I disagree with that. Maybe that's just me assuming. That's just the vibe I get. I need to lock this O-line down, and the Jets are in a great, great position to draft a franchise left tackle. Last thing I do want to say for the whole wide receiver O-line debate, if you need a wide receiver, you can go out and get one pretty much any year at any time. Think about all the big name receivers that have been moved just in the last couple of months. Jerry Jeudy, Deontay Johnson, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen. We were just talking about him with the Bears. T. Higgins has requested a trade. Brandon Ayuk his status is up in the air. What's going on with CeeDee Lamb's situation? We can talk about, receivers that have been traded in the past too. Tyreek Hill going to the Dolphins. A.J. Brown going from the Titans to the Eagles. These guys get moved. These receivers get moved pretty frequently. But when do franchise left tackles get moved? They don't. They just are so hard to come by. The only one that I can think of in recent memory, like a franchise cornerstone tackle to actually wind up with a new team, is Orlando Brown Jr. Chiefs to the Bengals. But that's pretty much it. They don't grow on trees. But wide receivers, you kind of feel like they're not necessarily a dime a dozen, but like there's a pretty good chance to land one. But again, Rome Odunze to the New York Jets, I think it makes a ton of sense, and I do feel like that's the route that Joe Douglas and this Jets team will go down on draft night if he's on the board here at spot number 10. But moving on to the Chargers at 11, I think J.C. Latham or Fuaga makes a lot of sense, but I'll go with J.C. Latham just because of the recent rumors linking Latham to the Chargers. Next up, Denver Broncos here. Such a tough team to predict. I think Bo Nix... Actually, you know what? Let's strike up a trade. We got the Eagles moving up with the Broncos. Eagles get 12. Broncos get 22, 53, and a future one. I think... Gosh, it's so much ammunition, but I mean, man, when you're talking about moving up 10 slots in round one, you're gonna have to pay the price. I don't think Denver's gonna move off of 12 super easily. All right, cool, it's been accepted. So we got the Eagles moving up. I think they could go offensive line here, but because this corner class is good up top and they have their choice between any of the top corners, and you can probably target, right tackle or something in those mid rounds. I mean, there's a lot of tackles in this class that I like. Amagachi from Yale, Fisher from Notre Dame. Like there's Coleman from TCU, although maybe he projects more so as a guard. But anyway, Eagles, I think because the lack of corner depth is apparent in this class, and they have their choice between any of the top corners, you got to be sure. And I think the Eagles really need to shore up that other position outside of Darius Slay. So the question becomes Terrion Arnold or Quinyon Mitchell. I think naturally Mitchell might be the better fit, but it's not to say that is a bad fit, or anything. I think Arnold would fit just fine. Personally, I like Terrion a little bit more, but I would not be surprised if they go Quinyon. I'm going to go Arnold, though, to the Philadelphia Eagles at 12. Again, maybe they go right tackle. Fuaga makes sense. But I think in this deep tackle class, they could go there later. Raiders at 13. Wow. I think for me, Fuaga makes a ton of sense for them. Go lock up the right tackle position. Kind of feels like a Raider. Violent player. Good in the running game. No more Josh Jacobs. Fuaga is an instant upgrade day one. We'll see if there's something, if a potential team, if I like a potential trade up moving forward. But pick 14, I'm going Olu Fashanu, right? I think this is a no-brainer, right? James Hurst just retired. Trevor Penning hasn't really worked out. Ryan Ramczyk potentially could retire, right? He's having some troubles with his lower body. Man, the Saints desperately need help at tackle. With Clint Kubiak coming in, more West Coast offense here. I think Fashanu makes a lot of sense. In pass protection to block Derek Carr's blindside, and I would expect a lot of play action this upcoming season. Next up, Indianapolis Colts. I'm going Brock Bowers. Falls beautifully right into the Colts' lap. They get a playmaker for Anthony Richardson. It's going to be a cool, new school type of offense if Bowers hits the Colts. So with 16, man, the Seahawks can really... man, I love Byron Murphy. I think Newton is really good at defensive tackle, but I think Fontenot makes too much sense for them. Because of the positional versatility, right? He can play tackle, he can play guard, he can play on the left side, he can play on the right side. I think right off the bat, Fontenot would slide in at left guard, and he also has a pretty high floor as well. Next up, Jacksonville Jaguars here. Brian Thomas. There's been some... I feel like as the weeks go by, the wide receiver smoke with the Jaguars just continues to... grow. Whether it was the whole Calvin Ridley situation, whether it was the whole Brandon Ayuk situation. I guess they could maybe still be in play for Ayuk, but Brian Thomas, 17. I love Brian Thomas Jr. Really, really do. And I think he'd be a nice fit for Doug Peterson's offense. Can really stretch the field. 18. Cincinnati. I'm going Byron Murphy here. I think that really fills a need. What's going on with this whole... Hendrickson thing as well? I know it's a different position on edge, but do the Bengals, with Brian Thomas off the board here, and Brock Bowers off the board, I could really see Cincinnati just going interior defensive line. Fills a need for them. And Murphy, big, physical, can rush the passer from the inside, can stop the run. Really, really like that fit. Plug and play guy immediately. LA Rams, spot number 19. I think I'm going Latu. To me, that makes a lot of sense when you talk about upside, when you talk about system fit. And, if you look at Latu in the past 2 seasons at UCLA, he is 100% ready to play right now. He can step into that Rams lineup and instantly be an impact player. And the Rams have made some nice, underrated offseason acquisitions. Cameron Curl at safety, Jonah Jackson at guard, re-upping Dotson at guard. The Rams know how to draft, and Latu, in my opinion, would be a steal here. Pittsburgh. I think Pittsburgh can go with Jackson Powers Johnson at center. I think they could go with Graham Barton, who can, also play center or guard or really wherever you need him to. Or they could go with another tackle. I think I'm going to go with Amarius Mims, though, because you get that upside, right? They actually went with the tackle last year from Georgia and Broderick Jones, who looked awesome a year ago for the Steelers squad. So Amarius Mims to the Pittsburgh Steelers. Miami Dolphins at 21. I think Newton makes sense, but I think Graham Barton, for me, is that's the guy that just comes in and fills a need. That's the guy that, if you have a hole on the Miami Dolphins offensive line, I'm looking at Robert Hunt, left guard position. Barton can slide right in. But if maybe they sign a cheap veteran there, or they want to, maybe make another acquisition somewhere, Barton can slide all across that offensive line. I feel like Barton would, just that positional versatility would be awesome for the Dolphins offensive line, having that ability to do that. Okay, so next up we got the Denver Broncos at 22. I'm going Bo Nix here. I just, I think for me, it's a tough sell in year two for Sean Payton to roll Jarrett Stidham and Zach Wilson out there. Bo Nix fits what Sean Payton wants to do. I really like Bo Nix a lot. I think he's accurate. I think he throws an underrated deep ball. You look at the mobility, you look at the leadership, you look at the experience, you look at success under center, you look at success with two different programs, two different coaching staffs, Auburn and the SEC, Dan Lanning in the Pac-12. Although Oregon is like essentially like an SEC team out west, at least that's how Lanning kind of sells the program, and the recruiting is no joke in Eugene. Fascinating player, somebody who takes care of the football. He kind of reminds me, he's like a souped up game manager in my opinion. I think Bo Nix is going to have a high floor. I don't think he's ever going to be a top 5 quarterback, but I view Bo Nix very early into his career as a guy that could potentially be like a Derek Carr, Alex Smith type of QB. Just can take care of the football, can win games. He's not going to screw it up weekly. Is he perfect? No. Does he have some limitations? Sure. But I think at 22, Denver acquired a future one. They acquired another pick. You're getting your quarterback that you were considering in this scenario at 12. I think that's a win. I think that's a win. Plus, you factor in the system fit. So moving on, LA Chargers at 23. So for me, we went Latham early on. I think wide receiver has to be the call here if we're just looking at team need. Gosh, Worthy or Mitchell? I love Coleman. I think I like Coleman. I like Coleman more than Worthy, but I think for the Chargers, they really want speed. It's so tough here. I think I'm going to go with Worthy, and that might be a reach because I like Mitchell better. I like Coleman better. But I think Worthy checks a box that the Chargers are looking for on the offensive side of the football, which is speed. Worthy is definitely faster than Keon Coleman, and he's faster than Mitchell. I think if you look at the Chargers wide receiving core right now with Palmer and Johnston, two possession types of wide receivers. So I think Coleman would maybe not be the best fit for them. But Worthy is somebody who they can really, really utilize in a bunch of different ways, bunch of different packages and whatnot. Take advantage of that speed. Get Herbert a weapon that that can hurt defenses down the field. So 24 with the Dallas Cowboys. Jackson Powers Johnson to me makes all the sense here. A massive upgrade on the inside. So Green Bay here at 25. Let's see here. Jeez, man. How is Quinyon Mitchell still here? It's between Mitchell or Cooper DeJean for me. I'll go with DeJean. I think the versatility will really make sense for the Packers defensively. Quinyon's coming off the board here. The Bucs traded away Carlton Davis. They recouped, I believe, a second-round pick from the Detroit Lions. Mitchell falls right into the Bucs' lap here at 26. Plug-and-play guy with Todd Bowles' defense with Jamel Dean across from him. Arizona 27. I'm thinking corner. I mean, man, Chop Robinson, I think, maybe makes some sense. The Cardinals need some pass rushing help. The Cardinals need help, right, at a lot of different areas. But corner, Kool-Aid McKinstry to me is like a Jonathan Gannon type of corner. Big, physical, athletic. I don't know if I should go with Kool-Aid or just the best available edge. I think I'm going to go with McKinstry. Nate Wiggins, I like. but I don't necessarily know. I think McKinstry's a better fit for the Gannon defense. So I'm going to go with Kool-Aid for the Cardinals at 27. And I would maybe look for them in the top of round 2 to maybe target like a Robinson from Missouri to affect the passer, or maybe potentially even chop Robinson if he falls. Let's see how this thing plays out. Okay, so Buffalo Bills, I think for me, I don't like to just kind of focus only on one position here, like pre-draft, like at spot number 28. Like you have to be open to multiple positions because you just don't know how the board's gonna play out. But geez, man, Buffalo can go in so many different directions at wideout. The class is just so deep. You know, Mitchell makes a lot of sense. Keon Coleman is a guy who I really am a big fan of. There's been so much buzz with Troy Franklin and the Buffalo Bills. I wouldn't rule that out. I mean, the Bills are like anything, any pre-draft visit or meeting or top 30 visit or Zoom call or combine visit, all that stuff has been checked with Troy Franklin and the Buffalo Bills. They are really doing their homework there. 6'3", has a ton of speed, ton of production. He makes sense, man. He really does. Jeez, I think Xavier Leggett makes a ton of sense for the Bills too. Such an explosive player on the outside. I think I'm gonna go with Mitchell though. I think maybe more so the consensus BPA approach. So 29 with the Detroit Lions, man. Detroit Lions. Well, they got Carlton Davis at corner. I really like some of their. First of all, I love the roster construction. You know what? I'm gonna try to trade back. Let's do the Raiders. Let's have the Raiders come up here. Detroit moving back. The Raiders get 29. The Lions get 44. 20 future 2. What I'm going to go 77 too. I think I'm going to go 77. Let's see. It's accepted. The Raiders are moving on up to go get Michael Penix, quarterback from Washington. I'm a little bit more flexible with the Raiders moving on from both 44 and 77 because A, they're a win now football team. They showed that last season with Antonio Pierce. B, they already have a good infrastructure in place for Michael Penix to walk into. C, they already have a first round pick. They selected Fuaga early on, so that fills a need as a day one starter. I'm okay if I'm the Raiders moving on from some mid round picks. Truthfully, the pick that I don't want to give up there is the future one. So Baltimore Ravens are on the clock here at spot number 30. Jeez, they can go in a bunch of different directions here. Wide receiver makes sense. O-line makes so much sense. I think I'm going to go with O-line. Tyler Guyton. Big, physical, nasty, dominant in the running game. Huge ceiling. Ravens, what are they known for? Development, coaching. Tyler Guyton to the Ravens. 31, San Francisco 49ers. And Johnny Newton is sitting here. Look, the Niners need O-line help. I get it. But, man, you lose Eric Armstead and Javon Kinlaw, and you get Newton here at 31. People are having Newton going anywhere from 13 to 20s. In the early 20s, but you're snagging him here at 31. I don't even know how the heck he fell. And then Chiefs here at 32. I think O-line is in consideration. I think wide receiver is in consideration. I think if I'm the Chiefs, you want somebody to stretch the field. And I think, oh man, Xavier Leggett is here. Gosh, I think that would be an awesome fit for them. I think it would either be McConkey, Leggett, or Troy Franklin. And I'm gonna give them Xavier Leggett as the explosive player on the outside, who could win jump balls, who could hurt teams deep down the field, who can hurt defenses with the football in his hands. Chiefs go get Leggett, and he's instantly a day one guy. So that's going to do it for me. Man, we got the draft later on technically today. I cannot wait for it. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comment section. Drop your mock draft down below in the comments. I can't wait to check it out. Can't wait to check it out. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know your thoughts, and as always, go Jets.